Our next job is to iterate through the array and retrieve and display the property value of each array element. First, we need to get the element total of the array and store it in a variable. Then we call the for statement to help us iterate the result array. Inside the for statement, we console log the result, I. We can see we have successfully iterated through the array. Then we prepare the text of each list item. When you are retrieving property value, do not forget the index I. Then we call the makeListItem function. The test we just prepared will be used as the first argument value. Before we run the program, do not forget to empty the previous content of the UL tag. We empty the UL tag before the for statement. Now, run the program. We can see the list has been generated successfully. We turn on the setInterval function. Now, the page will update itself every second. Let's test our Ajax program using PHP MyAdmin. We adjust field value. We can see the DOM has been updated automatically. We insert a few new rows. We have 2 new rows in the DOM automatically. Let's delete a row. We can see in DOM the corresponding row is gone. At the beginning of this lesson, we have some bad news for you. The program you created in the last lesson won't last a day in real life. It can only handle successful data retrieval. If the database connection was wrong or the SQL query failed, the program will collapse. Even when everything is fine, if we do not retrieve any rows from the database, our program will also fail. In this lesson, we're going to fill the loopholes in our program and get it ready for dealing with these failures and special situations. We will start with zero retrieval. Let's prepare another SQL statement. In the new SQL statement, we add where condition and limit the brand to Ferrari. We do not have any Ferrari in the record, therefore no row will be retrieved. So, what should we do now? What kinds of value should we send back? Our previous Ajax program treats results as an array and directly iterated through it, so we can't use it anymore. When no rows have been retrieved, we also prepare an array, but this time we prepare an indexed array. The first array element is false. The second one is a string, telling people there is no matching row. Then we JSON encode the array and echo it. When we have retrieved rows, we do the same. We prepare another indexed array. The first array element is true, and the second one is the all rows array. Now, whether rows have been retrieved or not, the Ajax program will always receive an indexed array with 2 elements. Let's prove this conclusion. We console log result. See? We have an indexed array. The first array element is false, and the second one is the string we set. Sorry, no match found. We switch into the previous SQL statement. Run the program again. Now, the first array element is true, and the second one is an array which contains every retrieved information. So, can you see what I'm trying to do here? After we have JSON parsed the response text, we first check result 0. True means rows retrieved. False means no row retrieved. Then we console log result 1. We can see we have an array. To display the retrieved data, all we need to do is iterate through result 1. First, we have the element total. Then, we empty the previous content of the UL tag. Then, we install the for statement. Inside the for statement, we prepare the item text. Remember, result needs two appendixes now, 1 and I. Then we call the make list item function. And else, we also clear the previous content of the UL tag. Then we call the make list item function again. This time, we directly use result 1 as argument value. Now, let's test the program. We can see it works. Our program can now handle two situations: rows retrieved and no row retrieved. Now, we know how to handle zero retrieval. Let's apply the same mechanism to other places. First, database connection failure. In the exit function, we JSON encode an index array. The first array element is false, and the second one is the connect error property. Then, we add a few random characters to database name. Save the PHP file. We can see the front-end file has detected the change and displayed the value of the connect error property. Then, we go to SQL query failure. We add another indexed array. We set the first element to false and the second one to a string. Sorry, SQL query error. Then, we add a few random characters to the SQL statement. Save the PHP file. We can see we have sorry SQL query error. Now, our Ajax program is a lot more secure than before. The Ajax program we created in the previous lessons will query database and update DOM every second. Therefore, it is vital that you keep your Ajax program as efficient as possible. The goal of the demo program used in previous lessons is to help you understand how Ajax works with back-end programs and a database. Therefore, our priority is to keep the program clear and easy to understand. To achieve this goal, we do have to sacrifice efficiency in certain areas. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to improve the efficiency of our Ajax program. A complete Ajax program is made of two parts: JS part and backend part. We will learn how to improve efficiency on both ends. When we are displaying data retrieved from the database, we will need a loop statement because there are usually more than one set of data. JavaScript has three types of loop statements: for in, and while. When it comes to iterating through an array, for in is the most convenient one. But usually, convenience comes at a price. In terms of efficiency, for in is the worst. For and while have similar efficiency. We recommend for statement. This is also what we use in our demo program. To iterate through an array, we first need to know how many elements it has. To get the element total, we call the length property. Here we assign the length property to a variable, row total. In the for statement, we use row total as a condition. So here's a question for you. Is it worthy to create a variable for the length property? Why don't we just directly put a result one dot length in the fourth statement? In this way, we could save one variable. The answer is creating a variable is worth it, and you should not put result dot length in the fourth statement. If we assign result one dot length to a variable, the system only needs to calculate the element total once. But if we put result one dot length in the for statement, the system will have to calculate the element total in every loop. There is no need to repeatedly calculate element total of the same array. If the array contains lots of elements, this can be a huge waste of system resources. Therefore, calculate element total first and assign it to a variable. Unless you have to, otherwise, never use the length property in the loop statement. Next, avoid global variable as much as you can. If you create a variable outside any JavaScript function, then this variable is a global one. Every function can access it. But if you create a variable inside a JavaScript function, then this variable is a local one. Its effective scope is limited to within that function only. A local variable is more efficient to use than a global one, because a global variable will be taken in by the window object. Using your own stuff is always better than borrowed ones. So here, we move the ul DOM into the response function. Test the program. We can see the result is the same. Next, we go to the PHP side. First and foremost, remember to free query results and disconnect from the database at the earliest possible time. If you need to select every field from a table, type each field name in the SQL statement. Do not use an asterisk. Asterisks may be convenient to use but are bad for efficiency. When sending data to the JS side, only send what is necessary. Try your best to minimize the data traffic volume. For example, if hi can solve the problem, do not use hello. 2 characters cost less to send than 6. When we are sending data to the JS side, we put everything in an index array. We do not use an associative array here. If an indexed array can do the job, do not use an associative array. Using an indexed array, we can retrieve each element using the number index. We do not need to send the array key. Save every bit you can, no matter how small it is. In total, we set 3 false, which means we send 3 error notice to the JS side. Do we really need to send a long string just because something went wrong? Why don't we just send a numeric error code and interpret that error code at the JS side? This can also help reduce data traffic volume. At the JS side, before we call the makeList item function, we need to interpret the error code stored in result 1. We need another function for this job. We create a new function and name it makeErrorNotice. We give it an argument, index. Index represents the error code received from the PHP side. Based on index value, we return corresponding strings. Then we install the makeErrorNotice function and set its argument value to result 1. Then we receive the function result using a new variable and pass that new variable into the makeListItem function. Remember, we said no unnecessary variables. We do not need a variable here. We can directly use the makeErrorNotice function as an argument. Now, let's test our program. We can see everything is working fine, but now our Ajax program is more efficient to run. In this lesson, we are going to resume our jQuery study. We will learn how to create an Ajax program using methods provided by jQuery. Compared with native JS, creating an Ajax program using jQuery is much more convenient. Your workload will be greatly reduced. First, we go to the jQuery manual and click the APU documentation button. Ajax is right on top of the list. Click it. You will get a list of all Ajax methods jQuery has. The list may be long, but don't worry. You only need one method from this list, the Ajax method. The Ajax method belongs to the jQuery object. Therefore, you need to prefix it with either jQuery or the $sign. If you have called the noConflict method, you need to change object name accordingly. The Ajax method has two arguments. The first one is URL, and the second one is the setting object. The setting object contains lots of properties. Each property represents one setting. But don't worry, most properties have default values. You do not need to set them yourself. Most of the time, you only need to set two properties, data and method. Data stores all data you want to send to the backend file. Method controls how your data is sent. By default, it is set to get. The Ajax method is very flexible with its arguments. You can integrate its first argument into the settings object. Just set property name to URL. To make handling responses more convenient, jQuery has provided us with three help methods: done, fail, and always. The three methods will trigger the anonymous function installed inside them. These three methods belong to the jQuery XHR object. You can directly connect them to the backend of the Ajax method. The done method is an alternative for the success property and its callback function. We use it for handling successful responses from the backend file. Return data is unpacked and inserted to DOM inside the done method. The fail method is for handling errors. For example, if the backend file does not exist, the fail method will be called. The always method, just like what its name suggests, will always be called. Usually, we use it for cleaning previous DOM contents. We will learn more about the three help methods and the anonymous function installed inside them in the next lesson. In this lesson, we are going to try the Ajax method we learned in the last lesson. This is the program we used in our previous lesson. We created two Ajax functions, request and response. Click the button. The request function will be triggered and send a name, message, and time to the interface.php file. At the backend side, we JSON encoded and echoed an associative array. The response function will receive the associative array and console log it. Now, we're going to recreate this program using jQuery, and you will be amazed by how much easier your job has become. We still need a request function. This request function is only for triggering jQuery methods defined inside it. Inside it, we put the Ajax method. The first argument is the URL of the backend file. The second one is an object. By default, the Ajax method sends data using the get method. Here we override the default setting. We set the method property to post. Then we install the data property. Its value is an object as well. Inside the object, we install a message property and give it a value. Now, our request can reach the backend file. Quite amazing, huh? All we need to do is to call the Ajax method and set three values for it. Compared with our previous request method, jQuery has greatly reduced our workload. We go to the interface.php file and var dump the global array, $post. Let's try the program. Click the button. Then we click the network button. We can see our message has reached the interface.php file. Like we said before, the Ajax method is very flexible with its arguments. You can move the URL into the settings object. Run the program again. We could see the result is the same, By default, the Ajax method sends data using the get method. We disabled the method property. At the backend side, we switch post into get. Run the program again. We can see this time the data is sent via the get method. Sending requests alone is not enough. We also need to handle responses. jQuery offered us 3 helper methods: done, fail, and always. All 3 methods follow the same structure. They all trigger an anonymous function. The anonymous function has an argument. Here we name the argument data. Let's console log data in the 3 helper methods. At the backend side, we prepare an associative array and then JSON encode and echo it. Then we run the program. Click the button. We can see every time we click the button, we will get 2 outputs. This is because both the done and always method have been triggered. Next, let's try the fail method. We add a few random characters to the backend file's URL. Run the program again. This time, we have a 404 error code. We can also see that both the fail and always method have been triggered. This time, the value of the data argument is an object. This object is the jQuery XML HTTP request object. The jQuery XML HTTP request is very similar to the native XML HTTP request object, but they are only similar, not the same. Let's open it. We can see there is a status property and a status text property. Status is 404 and status text is not found. We also have a ready state property and response text property. Ready state is 4 and response text is an HTML file telling us this file does not exist. Let's restore the program. The data argument of the done method is a JSON string. To retrieve information buried inside it, the best solution is to convert it into a JSON object. So, we call the parse method and retrieve the message content using message as property name. We can see now we have successfully gotten the message content. If things went wrong, the fail method would have been called. We can get the error code from the status property. Now attention here, we do not need to parse anything in the fail method. The data argument is the jQuery XML HTTP request object. If you want a description of what is wrong, you can call the status test property. We can see now we have not found. In the last lesson, we tried the Ajax method and its 3 helper methods. In this lesson, we are going to display response data in DOM. First, we install a set of UL tags. All response data will be displayed in the UL tag as a list item. In the done method, we select the UL tag. Then we call the append method. The value of the append method is tag name and list item content. To get the content of each list item, we JSON parse the data argument and use message property as message name. Now let's try the program. We can see every time we click the button, a new list item will appear. Usually, before we insert any new content, we need to get rid of the previous one. Otherwise, the list will keep getting longer and longer. The always method is the best candidate for this job, but we need to call it before the done method. Inside the always method, we select the UL tag and empty it. Now, run the program again. We can see only the latest list item will be kept. In the fail method, we also select the UL tag. This time, we set its content to the status text property of the jQuery XML HTTP request object. Let's test the program. We can see we have not found. Restore the URL. Now, we got the return data. To further facilitate our operation, jQuery has offered us a few shorthand methods. For example, if you want to send requests using post, you can directly use the post method. We can see the result is the same. Of course, there is a get method. The response data we receive in the done method is a string. We need to convert it ourselves. But if you use the getJSON method, you do not have to do this parse yourself. The argument data will be a JSON object directly. We can see we can retrieve message content without parsing the data argument. But do remember, there is no post.json method yet. If you want jQuery to parse returned data automatically for you, you can only send data using the get method.